Okay, hello again. This is now the Tarot Q&A number 4. And I want to look at... The idea initially was that I would look at comments that people had left on previous videos and use them as a starting point for answering the questions that were asked. And one of these days I'll probably get to that. But today... I wanted to look at an actual reading that somebody did and talk about the reading itself and what I make of it, and ideally give you some tips on what you can do to improve your understanding and your reading style. And when I make these videos, I usually have an idea of what I want to talk about. But I don't like to think about it too much because I come up with sentences or ideas and I think it through and I'm really happy with it. But then I don't want to, if I write it all down, it can lose a spontaneity. So I have a few ideas written down on this screen here. And then, but today I'm feeling, I don't know, frazzled or something. So I may look at the screen more than I would normally do. So the question the person asked was, what's the right thing to do about a particular relationship? So he had been married, or he is married. And you know how sometimes with people, you wonder, should I leave? What do I do? Because things are not going the way I want. And this is, I think, the kind of state of mind that the questioner is in. So he wants to know what's the best thing to do about the relationship. So the reader did a past, present, and future. And I wrote down, make a distinction. So I think it's important for us as readers to make a distinction between what we're thinking about the card and the answer and what we're actually going to say to the questioner. Because we have to figure out how much of our thinking do we speak and how much do we give the questioner the conclusion that we came to or the answer that we come up with. So I'm going to do a bit of both in this video, and what I'm thinking at the moment is I'll talk about how I might think about the card, and then I'll say what I would say to the questioner. And so the first thing I've got is one card at a time. So it's a past, present, and future spread. Card on the left is the past, the one in the middle is the present, the one in the right is the future. And I think it's important to turn one card. You lay them face down, you turn one card at a time. You turn a card, think about it, and then you turn the next card. Rather than start with all 3 cards, in this case 3 cards, instead of starting with all the cards face up, I don't know, I don't think it's too easy to immediately jump to what you know or what you think without actually reading the card or trying to make sense of the card. And I think if we're going to do justice to the tarot and do a good job for the questioner, we really ought to take our time. And this is partly, I like to, if I'm doing a reading for somebody, I like to pick the cards and then think about them off and on or in the back of my mind for a few hours. Then once I've got an idea of the general points that I want to make, then I'll sit down and make the recording. I don't like to have somebody opposite where I have to come up with something immediately. I used to do it like that, but with the internet, and because people are not in the same room, I don't do it that way. But I like it this way because it gives you time to get an idea of the weather, so to speak. You know, so if you look at the cards and you know that, okay, it's rainy, the rain's going to stop and the sun's going to come out for a while, but it's going to start raining again, then you can give that kind of report to the questioner, and then they know, okay, things are not so good at the moment, or there's awkwardness, but it's going to get better. So maybe when it's better, I'll think about how I'm going to handle future difficulties. Whereas if it's rain, rain, sun, then the pain is going to continue for a bit longer, but bright days are coming. Or if it's sunny, rain, rain, then what was good in the past that I could build on, that I didn't build on, that brought the rain. And so if I continue with current thinking, it's going to keep raining. But if I go back to what I had in the beginning with the sun, the sunny period, then I can maybe make the future better. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of general idea of what the story is or what the picture looks like. And then if you know what that is, then you present that kind of information to the questioner, and then it's up to them to relate the weather report to their actual circumstances or the conditions of their life. And they can do that because they know the details. And you, the reader, don't need to know the details. So the first card we got was the Four of Coins in the past. So who is this person? We don't know. We can guess, but we don't know at this point. And is it good or bad? We don't know. It's easy to make assumptions, but we really ought not to. But we know that it's in the past. So I think, and again, this is me thinking, okay, who is it? I don't know. Is it good or bad? I don't know. Maybe because it's upright, I'm going to say it's good, whatever it happens to be. But I don't know that at this point. But I know it's in the past. So if we look at the image on the card and start in a general kind of a way. So we're not saying that you in the past were holding on tightly to something, or your partner in the past was holding on tightly to something, or in the past the relationship revolved around what are you going to hold on tightly to. So I think if you think in a general kind of a way, or describe it in a general kind of a way, you look at the picture and you say, in the past, somebody was holding on tightly to something. And that gives you, the reader, a correct starting point from which to add in details or talk about what else is important. And I think it's also important to remember the question at this point. So what's the best thing to do about the relationship? We've got the Four of Pentacles in the past. So you maybe say to the questioner, the card shows somebody holding on. And it could be good if it's good habits or good thinking or good ideas, but it also could be bad if you're holding on to stupid ideas. But because it's upright, let's say you had good ideas in the past. The relationship, because it's about a relationship, the relationship was solid, it was steady, it was dependable, it was reliable, just from looking at the picture on the card. So maybe what you'd say to the questioner is, the card shows stability in the past, in the relationship. What was good about it? What did you care about? In what way did you get along with each other? And let them think about that if they're on their own, or answer your question, which then gives you a lead into the middle card. So the thing is, the first card could have been the Three of Swords reversed, let's say. And so the remembering, or the starting point, is pain and heartache. And then if you're suffering, or if you've been suffering, that gives you a particular way of looking at the present circumstance. Whereas if the card in the past had been the Sun upright, there was confidence and a positive energy or attitude. And that's what you bring. That's the kind of person who's now looking at the circumstances described by the middle card for the present. But in this case, we've got the Four of Pentacles. So you were together and connected and in harmony with each other in the past. What did you do? What did you think? What plans did you have that meant that you were on the same page and that would show the stability of that Four of Pentacles? The other thing is, Pentacles is money, but it also represents values, as I keep saying. So with the Four of Pentacles in the past, you cared about the same things. So what were those things that you cared about? Remember your past values. Then we turn the card for the middle, the card for the present, and it happens to be the Lovers. So I like the old-fashioned interpretation of the Lovers, which is the card used to be called the Two Paths. So you get a young man standing at crossroads. On one side is the wife and the other is the mother. And so the person represented by the Lovers is at a point where they have to choose between what they were brought up with, represented by the mother, and what new direction they want to go in, represented by the wife. So if we look at if you think about the question, so in the past, you and your partner were on the same page, but now you're at crossroads. And you need to think about what you care about and what you value so that you can make the right decision and move into the future along the path that you actually chose, or along the path that you actually choose. But because of the picture and the Four of Pentacles, what do you do in the moment? You have to choose. First, relax, because the person in the Four of Pentacles is holding on tightly to the card. To the coin. So relax. Bring your thinking and your ideas up to date, and remember that the past doesn't have to control the future. Also, the fact that the card in the middle is the Lovers and it's a major trump and it's upright, things are, you're going to make good decisions and you can have confidence, but because it's a major trump, think about your overall life direction and path and goals and expectations, and incorporate them into your thinking about the relationship. Remember your values and make a decision based on what you truly, really continuously care about, and build on that instead of building on something that you're okay about, but you don't really care about that much. So let's say a candlelit dinner once a week is really important to you. Then that has to be part of it. But if your partner would rather stay home and save the money, or rather stay home and watch television, and so that if when you do go out, they're really not there. They may be physically there opposite on the other side of the table, but they really don't want to be there and they're kind of miserable and you know it. That can be a deal breaker, as they say, for the relationship. If you're not on the same page, or if you're no longer on an important page, or a page that's important for you. That's the kind of thing you would say. And the third card, we turn the third card and get the Ten of Batons, and it's upright. And this is the future. So you were together in the past, you now have to choose which direction to go in, but there's no clear answer at the moment, because the Ten of Batons, you look at the picture, the person's plodding on, but their head is down and they can't see the goal, or they can't see where they're going. So there is no clear answer at the moment. And maybe it goes back to the Lovers, where you have to make some decisions about what direction you want to go in. Then you've got a chance of seeing clearly whether you should stay or whether you should leave. The other thing is that with the Ten of Batons, if you were to stop, if the person in the picture were to stop and rearrange the batons, put the batons down, pick them up and carry them in a more convenient way or a more sensible way, then they'd be able to look ahead and see where they were going, as well as carry the batons. So maybe it's time to, while you're thinking and choosing what direction to go in, stop, rearrange the batons, rearrange your questions, rearrange the answers that you've come up with, and reorganize so that you'll be able to move on with confidence. So I wrote stop, think it through. So the other thing is, it's a 10 of batons. 10 is a 1 plus nothing, gets you back to 1 again. So a 10 is the end of a cycle before the beginning of a new one. So it's a bit like, in the past you were together and you coexisted in a reasonably harmonious way. But there's a little bit of stubbornness mixed in with it. Now you're at crossroads. You need to figure out what path you want to travel, not just what direction you want to go on, but what path, what kind of life you want for you and the partner and you as a married individual. What's the nature of the path going to be? And it has to be meaningful and valuable to you. But don't just try to move ahead without thinking things through. And so what you do is, because it's a 10, the end of a cycle, think back to the past conditions and what worked and what didn't work, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. And in the light of the ideas that you come up with or the memories that you have, then reorganize, and then you'll see the path forward. But you're not going to see the path forward before or until you think things through, until you examine and assess the cycle. But be confident, because the Lovers is upright. You're going to make the right decision. You're going to figure it all out. So when you're thinking about the past, do it with confidence, knowing that you can do it, rather than assuming that you're stuck, or rather than prejudging. Because if you're in a bad mood and feeling doubtful today, that doesn't mean that everything is doubtful. But we can tend to do that, especially when it comes to relationships. We tend to see the worst and magnify it. And that's correct sometimes, but not in this case. You can't prejudge, because the Four of Pentacles and the Lovers are there, but also the Ten of Batons. You can't at this point see your final goal or your destination. Okay, I think that's it. I'll see you in a couple of days. Okay, bye-bye.